PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli, and we have a good episode for you here on Vegas Hockey Hub, as we're going to be doing a player profile on William Carrier, who has been one of the long-standing members of your Vegas Golden Knights. And I will say, for everyone watching all around the world who have not been a part of this show yet, I want to say welcome in. Go to PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. Check out all of the content we have on the network. We also have a dozen shows on the network. We also have marathon shows. There's a bunch of fantastic content on PR Connections Radio. So go to the website, check out all content on there, including Vegas Hockey Hub. If you also want to go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel, because we upload every single show to PR Connections Radio, their YouTube channel. So if you want to watch every single episode, if you want to engage with our network, go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. If you want to go to the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel, if you want to like this video and share it to all your friends all around the world, on our YouTube channel, we try to upload every single day. And I will also say, when it comes to the YouTube channel, we upload shorts. We do a bunch of amazing content onto the YouTube channel, some exclusive content as well. So go to the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel, as we put out content every single day onto the YouTube channel. If you also want to go to our social media on Vegas Hockey Hub, we are everywhere. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We are everywhere you need to be on social media. So it is at Vegas Hockey Hub. So on Facebook, we have been posting articles recently with Vegas Hockey Hub. So go to our Facebook page and like the page and share it to all your friends around the world. Our Instagram, we like to post pictures of our experiences at Golden Knights games, at Silver Knights, at UNLV hockey. Anytime we do anything media related, we try to put up our pictures onto the Instagram page at Vegas Hockey Hub, and on Twitter at Vegas Hockey Hub. We also do our live streams as well. So through every single Golden Knights game, we will be on our Twitter, engaging with our audience and engaging with every single person who is interacting with Vegas Hockey Hub. And then we also do short little skits on our Vegas Hockey Hub TikTok as well. Now, getting into William Carrier and discussing him, this guy has been a day one member, a misfit for the Vegas Golden Knights organization. And I will say, for William Carrier, let's break down how he got to where he is now. So for William Carrier, he was drafted 57th overall in the 2013 NHL entry draft. He came from the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. I mean, I'll say this about the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. A lot of fantastic talent comes from this league. William Carrier is a notable example. And I will mention, since we're looking at a photo here of William Carrier, the number 28 has been a long-standing number with William Carrier. Now, I understand he wore number 48 when he was in Buffalo. We'll talk about that later in the player profile. But to me, it's a little bit fascinating how certain players have had a jersey number dated back to their junior hockey days. Jack Eichel, he was seen wearing number 9 for certain portions of him being at Boston University. William Carrier wearing number 28 for Cape Breton out there at the Screaming Eagles. And now he's wearing number 28 for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and number 28 for your Vegas Golden Knights now. And man, when it comes to Cape Breton, there's actually some future NHLers that he played on the same team with. Not only would he play with Logan Shaw, who was recently with the Ottawa Senators, he is someone who has been splitting time between the NHL and AHL and Logan Shaw. Clark Bishop, He's also split some time between Carolina and Ottawa. He's played a few seasons in the NHL. But interesting enough, William Carrier played on the same team as a future Golden Knights teammate, and that was a goaltender named Maxime Lagacé. And it's actually quite fascinating how the first couple of years, Maxime Lagacé and William Carrier were teammates in junior hockey, and then they ended up being teammates for a couple of seasons in the NHL with your Vegas Golden Knights. So, hey, small world, you must say, when it comes to the NHL. The fact that when it comes to William and it comes to Maxime, those were two guys who played on the same junior team and eventually would play on the same NHL roster as it would go on. Now, for William Carrier, it's actually very interesting when you break down his career in Cape Breton, because his career was kind of a slow build, some would say. So in year one of playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, 61 games, 8 goals, 12 points, and 54 penalty minutes for Cape Breton. And you know what? 8 goals, 12 points, first season playing junior hockey for William Carrier. But one aspect that I will mention is that he had a negative 28 plus minus while playing for Cape Breton. And this is despite them actually making the playoffs in 2011, playing in the 2011 Quebec Major Junior Hockey League playoffs. Cape Breton would be eliminated in the first round by St. John, but still nonetheless, Cape Breton would meet in the first round just to get bounced by the St. John Sea Dogs of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Moving on to year two of his career playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League for Cape Breton Screaming Eagles. This would be 2011-2012. He would have his breakout year, as he in 2011-2012, William Carrier would play 66 games, 27 goals, and 70 points as an added 65 penalty minutes. So not only was he essentially averaging a penalty minute per game, but he averaged over a point per game in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League that season. And in the 2012 Quebec Major Junior Hockey League playoffs, Cape Breton would once again go up against St. John, and they would lose once again to the St. John Sea Dogs in the 2012 Quebec Major Junior Hockey League playoffs. The good part for William Carrier, however, was in 4 games, he had 3 goals and 6 points in 4 games. So he had almost a goal per game in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League playoffs. That is quite impressive. Moving on to the next season, he would actually get a good opportunity, William Carrier would, as William Carrier would be named to the Team Canada's roster for the World Under-18 Championship. Anybody who doesn't know, Team Canada has a bunch of teams in junior hockey. You have the World Junior Championship, you have the World Under-18 Championship, and the World Under-16 Championship. So for this edition, William Carrier would be named to Team Canada for the World Under-18 Championship. And by the way, just to kind of establish how loaded this roster was, this is kind of just some of the notable names who played for Team Canada for the World Under-18 roster. In net at goalie, you had future 2-time Stanley Cup winning goalie in Matt Murray in net. As in defense, you had established NHLers in Darnell Nurse, you had Ryan Pollock, Josh Morrissey, and Matt Dumba on the World Under-18 roster, playing on the same roster as William Carrier. And even on the forward line, you would have Kirby Reichel, who would play a few seasons in the NHL, Scott Lawton, who's been playing for the Philadelphia Flyers the last couple of seasons. Sam Reinhart was on the Florida Panthers team that faced off against William Carrier later on, almost a decade later, in the Stanley Cup Finals. And the most notable forward on this entire team was Anthony Manta, who has now become an established player in Detroit and Washington in his career. So to say that the Team Canada roster was loaded with talent would be an understatement. And the fact that William Carrier would be named to that roster after a 70-point season in Quebec Major Junior Hockey League is impressive. More importantly, William Carrier would help Team Canada score the bronze medal that year in the 2014 International Ice Hockey Federation World Under-18 Championship. The final 2 seasons that William Carrier would be in junior hockey, he would play for Cape Breton, and in 2012-2013, he would play in only 34 games and would have 16 goals for 42 points. That is a good statistic there. And then his final season playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Now, I want really just to point this out, by the way. William Carrier, in his final season playing in junior hockey, he would play in 66 games. He would have 22 goals. He would have 65 points and would have a whopping 87 penalty minutes in the 2013-2014 season playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. So this was a guy in William Carrier in his final season who essentially averaged almost a point per game in his final year in juniors and actually got in his penalty minutes and doubled from the year before. And in his final playoff series and playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, his team would actually go down as they would actually play in the quarterfinals, and they would lose. So this was a team that, unfortunately, William Carrier never got past the quarterfinals in the President's Cup, which is what they named the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League playoffs. So for William Carrier, here's what his statistics look like in his entire junior career. So William Carrier for Cape Breton would be 63 goals, 102 assists, 165 points, and a whopping 202 penalty minutes in 200 games played. So, essentially for William Carrier, in 4 seasons playing junior hockey, he would average over a penalty minute per game and would average just a little bit under a point per game while playing in junior hockey. So when it comes to William Carrier, I will say that he had a very good tenure in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And I will say when it comes to William Carrier, he did a really good job. And I will say for William Carrier, this is where the second part of his tenure would go, as William Carrier would be drafted in the second round of the 2013 NHL entry draft. Now, despite his high praise, he would only go in the second round of the NHL draft. Now, I will mention and I will kind of talk about in just a little bit the players who were drafted around the same time as him, because William Carrier was actually drafted around some really good talent. For example, JT Compher was drafted a few picks before William Carrier. And JT Compher just won a Stanley Cup a while ago in Colorado. And he had 2 former teammates in Vegas be drafted in the same round as him. Valentin Zykov, who was drafted by the LA Kings in round 2. He played a few games for the Vegas Golden Knights. And you also had Ian Mikoshin, who actually played for the Henderson Silver Knights in the AHL for a little bit of time. So I will say for the 2013 NHL draft, William Carrier was in a very good draft class. Some other notable names that were taken in that time was Pittsburgh Penguins goaltender and all-star goalie in Tristan Jarry. You also ended up having a really good middle six forward in Nick Sorensen, who played out there in San Jose. You also ended up having some really good players who ended up becoming some good established guys. For example, you had Justin Bailey. And I will say about Justin Bailey, he's playing in San Jose. He spent some time in Buffalo, Edmonton. He has done a really good job for how his career was taken in the same draft as him. And one pick after William Carrier would be all-star forward Tyler Bertuzzi, who is currently playing in Toronto. So that 2013 draft was very loaded with talent, and William Carrier would be part of that. But unfortunately for William Carrier, he would not be able to stay in St. Louis for much longer, as William Carrier would be traded from St. Louis to Buffalo, as he would be packaged with Chris Stewart. He'd be packaged with a first-round pick and a third-round pick in exchange for all-star goalie Ryan Miller and team captain Steve Ott. And at the time, this was an impressive trade. This was something that you don't see often in the NHL. You do not see an all-star goalie and a captain traded together in the same trade. But the St. Louis Blues did pull off this move, and they gave up Jaroslav Halak, Chris Stewart, a prospect at the time in William Carrier, and a first and third round picks. Now, since I am talking about this here on the show, I do want to quickly mention, by the way, what those picks ended up becoming. By the way, don't worry, I am not becoming Steve Dangle. It's not going to become an NHL trade tree. But I will say in this draft in 2014, there was some good stuff that came from this trade. Now, those draft picks that I did mention, one of them ended up becoming a solid player, and the other one, not so much. So this draft actually ended up becoming really good, and I will say that the William Carrier deal as a prospect and him being dealt for all-star goalie in Ryan Miller definitely helped there. Now, William Carrier would end up playing 3 seasons in the AHL. The American Hockey League, he would play for the Rochester Americans, the affiliate of the Buffalo Sabres. Now, William Carrier in those 3 seasons, of course, he would evolve over time. He'd end up ending up being a good, solid player, but his stats in the AHL did include this. 2014-2015, he played in 63 games and would have 7 goals and 21 points for Rochester. They did not make the playoffs that year, so going into 2015-2016, William Carrier would play 56 games, have 13 goals and 30 points in 48 penalty minutes. Not bad for William Carrier. And then 2016-2017, his final stint in the AHL, he would have 3 goals, 5 points in 8 games before being called up full-time into the NHL. So his full-term stats in the AHL, he had 23 goals, 33 assists, and 56 points. He also had 92 penalty minutes in 127 games. It's kind of been a reoccurring theme with William Carrier, is that he accumulates a good amount of penalty minutes over time. So William Carrier being in the AHL, doing a good situation for him, and now he's trying to make the roster, right? You see him here, he's in training camp, he's trying to earn a spot in Buffalo, and in November 6th of 2016, that is exactly what William Carrier would do. As William Carrier would make his NHL debut and would play against the Ottawa Senators. Now, William Carrier, he would only play 41 games that year in 2016-2017. And in his rookie campaign, he had 2 notable moments. one that was good and one that was not so good. So in his rookie campaign, he would score his first ever goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I want to mention this just because I find it a bit ironic and a bit funny. But does anyone want to guess who the goalie was that he scored against? Who was the goaltender that he scored his first ever career goal? William Carrier. I found this really funny considering what would happen years later. But William Carrier on November 19th, 2016, he would score his first ever NHL goal against someone who guessed it in the comments, his future Vegas Golden Knights teammate in Marc-Andre Fleury. So not only did he play in Team Canada alongside a Pittsburgh Penguins Stanley Cup winning goalie in Matt Murray, but he would end up scoring his first ever goal against a future teammate in Marc-Andre Fleury. He would also finish his rookie season with only 8 points. Now, for William Carrier, that's a bit underwhelming and a bit unfortunate, I will say. 41 games, 5 goals, but only 8 points in Buffalo. He was kind of a bottom 6 forward in Buffalo. He wasn't really getting any opportunities there. And that leads to what happens next to William Carrier. Because William Carrier, while playing in Buffalo, he would be left exposed in the 2017 NHL expansion draft. And the Buffalo Sabres would end up losing William Carrier. As the Vegas Golden Knights, George McPhee would end up selecting William Carrier and would actually get a 6th-round pick in the deal to take William Carrier. Here's a fun fact for you, by the way. The 2017 6th-round pick that Vegas got alongside William Carrier would end up being their actual goaltender now in Jari Patera. So kind of funny how that works, right? Patera is only in Vegas because Buffalo gave up William Carrier and packaged it with a 2017 6th-round pick. So if you don't draft William Carrier, you don't get Jari Patera in the deal as well. So with the Buffalo Sabres, that time is done. It is over. Now let's get to the Vegas Golden Knights part. In his first season playing here in Vegas, his first season, he would actually make the opening day roster. He was on the 23-man roster to start the year, but unfortunately, he would only play half the season in Vegas. Now, the main reason why William Carrier only split half the year is because he was sharing reps with a forward at the time named Brandon Lepsick. So Brandon Lepsick was the 4th-line winger that they were sharing minutes with William Carrier. And this is no disrespect to Brandon Lepsick, but he would only last 2 seasons in Vegas before going to Washington, and now he is in the KHL. So Brandon Lepsick, he is no longer with Vegas. It opens up a spot for William Carrier. But as he had to split time in year 1, he only had 1 goal and 2 assists in his first season in Vegas. To say that is not outstanding numbers would be an understatement, but once again, I have to point out the obvious. When William Carrier is not being on the roster every single day, it's kind of hard for him to kind of stand out. What did stand out, however, was what happened in the 2018 playoffs, as William Carrier would be missing time not just once, but twice in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The first time he would miss time was in the first round of the 2018 playoffs, as he would get a hit from Drew Doughty, and he would have to go into concussion protocol and miss the rest of round 1. Round 2, he would get back into the action before being taken out of the lineup in the Western Conference Finals against Winnipeg. So William Carrier, in the first ever run in 2018, would only play in 10 games for Vegas that year. And unfortunately for William Carrier, in those 10 games, he would have a whopping 0 points in that 10-game span. But you know what? William Carrier, 2018, people wanted to take a chance on him. And more importantly, George McPhee and Kelly McCrimmon wanted to take a chance on William Carrier. As in the 2018 offseason, he would sign a 2-year deal, $1.4 million, bump him up from about $600,000 to about $725,000 in the NHL. And in those 2 years that he had that extension, he would play in 54 games in 2018-2019. He had actually play in 7 games in the playoffs, register 0 points once again. But then 2019-2020, he would play every single game. He'd be an everyday member of the roster. And this is actually when Carrier started to kind of take off. In 71 games, he would have 7 goals and 19 points for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then in 20 playoff games that year, he'd register his first goal, end up having 2 in the playoffs, and 20 games in the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. So William Carrier went from barely being in the roster and barely getting any playing time to being an everyday member and having 2 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2020. William Carrier did enough in those 2 seasons to get a big extension by the Vegas Golden Knights. And what I mean by big extension is that William Carrier would sign a 4-year deal after 2020, and this would keep William Carrier until 2024. So how would William Carrier perform in those 4 seasons? Well, William Carrier in 2020-2021, he would play in 52 of 56 games that year, have 6 goals and 15 points. On top of that, he'd play in 19 Stanley Cup playoff games and would register a goal and 2 assists on the bottom 6. But his 2021-2022 season is when he really took off and kind of elevated his game, as William Carrier would register career highs in goals and points for Vegas. As in 63 games, he would have 9 goals and 20 points as they would miss the playoffs that year. But it showed that William Carrier was becoming a constant. He was becoming more consistent in Vegas. And it would lead to his breakout performance. In the 2022-2023 season, he'd play in 56 games. However, he would have 16 goals, nearly double his career high. He would have 25 points, 5 more than his career high. And in the playoffs that year, in 18 Stanley Cup Finals games, he would register 2 goals, 6 points, and a whopping 26 penalty minutes in 18 playoff games. And not only would he do all of that stuff, he would help the Vegas Golden Knights win a Stanley Cup and would help the Vegas Golden Knights raise Lord Stanley in the NHL. Though his stats that season, as you see on the screen there, 18 goals, 31 points, and 56 penalty minutes for William Carrier. Now, as we got about a minute left here in the show, I want to show everyone what he has done as a Vegas Golden Knight. Because not many people are going to appreciate it. Not many people outside of Vegas are going to care, but I want to show everyone still. William Carrier, in 6 full seasons playing in Vegas, 47 goals, 44 assists, 91 points. Once again, a whopping 167 penalty minutes in over 300 games in the NHL playing in Vegas. And you really want to talk about it, he's at almost 400 NHL games in his career, if you actually include his time in Buffalo. So I will say for William Carrier, he has had a very successful career, and he has done majority of it here in Vegas. So this was a player profile on William Carrier here on Vegas Hockey Hub on prconnectionsradio.com. And until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. And until next time, continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights.